guys, it's Bryn. Welcome back to a new video. Or if you're new here, which is probably likely considering the topic of this video, welcome for the first time. Now, I made my first celiac disease, just like overview kind of video a couple years ago, and to this day, it continues to be one of my most viewed videos. I get comments on it pretty much every week of people just reaching out to say that they just got diagnosed, or they just wanted to find other people like them so they didn't have to feel so alone. So I've been planning on filming a follow-up video for a while now, but I decided to wait until this month to do it because it was June 4 years ago that I first got diagnosed with celiac disease. In my original video, I talked specifically about my experience being diagnosed with celiac disease, just like the struggles I went through in the first couple of years trying to adapt to this diagnosis. But I wanted to do another video that was kind of more broad with chronic disease in general, and just share the message whether you've been diagnosed recently with a chronic illness or you've been dealing with one for a long time, whether you feel good about it or whether you're feeling a little disheartened or alone or scared, whatever it is. I just wanted to make a video that shared with you kind of how I'm dealing with it 4 years later, what my life kind of looks like, what I'm still dealing with, and just to share that, like, you're not alone and things do get better. There are so many different types of chronic illnesses, way too many for me to name off the top of my head. Personally, I have celiac disease, which, if you're unfamiliar, it means I can't eat gluten. If I do, even small amounts of it, my body essentially just attacks itself. If I do eat even small amounts of gluten, I get extremely sick. If I hadn't been diagnosed, or if I just ignored it, eventually I would get irreparably sick. So even though essentially not eating gluten makes it so I live a fairly normal life, it is considered a chronic disease because I will be dealing with it forever. Like, as of now, there is no fix for it except for me not eating gluten. So if you're curious to know a little bit more about that, whether you have celiac disease or not, I will link my original video in the cards somewhere, just if you feel like watching it. So again, there are so many different kinds of chronic illnesses. If you're watching this, maybe you have celiac disease, maybe you have something completely different, but one thing they all have in common is that they're chronic, which is a nice way of saying that they don't go away ever, or that they're incurable. There are often things we can do to ease our symptoms or to make it easier to live day-to-day life, but essentially we will be dealing with this for the foreseeable future until potentially something comes along that can fix it, but also possibly not in our lifetime. And I think that's the hardest part, right? Like, it always starts off, we get sick, we go to the doctor, we're not feeling well, and eventually we get diagnosed with something that can't be fixed. Like, your life is different now forever, and it's never going to be the same as it was. But essentially this is something we have in common, and it's kind of the most difficult part of it, right? And I think the stage right after you get diagnosed, which is when a lot of people come looking for these videos, and I found with my last one, that's when most people found it or stumbled upon it, was when they just recently got diagnosed, whether it's within, you know, a day, a week, a year, but they're still figuring out how to live their life with this new diagnosis. And it's just the most difficult stage, right? And we never know how long it's gonna last. Some people figure it out in a month, some people it takes a couple years. For me to kind of get past the initial shock and kind of accept my new normal probably took 1.5 to 2 years. Obviously there are still days where I kind of revert back to that, but I mean, it's not a stage that just immediately disappears, right? Like, that shock sticks with you for a while, and it takes a bit to get to a point where you feel comfortable with your diagnosis and you accept it and you just figure out a way to live your life with it and deal with it. So if you're still stuck in that stage, maybe it's been a while or maybe it's recent, like, it does eventually change, I promise you. You won't be stuck in this stage forever, but just know, like, this is the hardest part and it does get easier. And eventually, I think we all get to a point where we come to figure out, or we come to accept and realize that this is how it's gonna be. Like, there's nothing we can do. This is our new normal, and you're gonna figure it out. And it's not always gonna be easy, but this is your life now, and that's it. Like, you just have to learn to adapt to it, and it doesn't do you any good to dwell on the fact that you didn't used to have it and now you do and life sucks. Like, anyone who's lived with a chronic illness for an extended length of time will probably know and understand when I say that a lot of people don't understand it, but you do get to this point and you do just learn to accept that this is your life now and there's nothing you can do about it and you're fine. And from there, I think it only gets easier. And as I said, this is the part that people who don't have a chronic illness struggle to understand. I hear people say a lot, like, I can't imagine not being able to eat a cupcake, or I would die if I couldn't have bread. And for me, this has been just continuously one of the hardest things to deal with, because I can figure my own shit out. Like, I can figure out the foods I need to avoid. I can make my own meals. I don't have to go to certain restaurants. Like, I can figure that out. I can adapt my lifestyle to my illness and I'll be fine. But it's when you throw other people into the mix, like the ones that don't understand or the ones that just like can't seem to wrap their brains around it, that's when it gets hard. It's kind of amazing how many people I interact with that just cannot understand that I can't eat whatever I want to eat whenever I want to eat it. Like, no, eating a donut won't kill me, and yes, I do want to eat it, but no, I'm gonna put my health first and I'm not gonna do it. It's not worth it for me. And I think that's probably something a lot of people with a chronic disease understand. Just, if you don't live with it, if this isn't your normal life, people struggle to understand that. And I can't make anyone understand that, right? Like, I can't be mad at them if they want to eat a donut in front of me. Like, go ahead, eat your donut while you still can. I wish someone would have told me that one day I wasn't going to be able to, so that I could have eaten all the donuts I could before I couldn't anymore. But I've also found it's really easy for people to unintentionally make you feel like your disease is your fault, to make you feel like you're the burden that's inconveniencing them. When it's not you, it's your disease, and it's hard to separate yourself from that sometimes, especially when it's coming from people who don't understand and who say things that they're not intentionally trying to make you feel like it's your fault, but because they don't understand and because they can't wrap their heads around it, it just kind of happens. And this feeling of being a burden, even though I know people aren't doing it intentionally, is something that I continue to struggle with even 4 years later when I've accepted my diagnosis. I've accepted that this is my life. I still feel that frequently. I'm always kind of like, well, it would be easier on everyone if I just didn't come along to dinner, or if I just packed my own lunch, and if I stopped expecting people to, you know, change their food plans to adapt to me. But what I've come to realize over the past 4 years is that I have to put myself and my health above other people's comfort. So I'm going to a bachelorette party this weekend, and I am probably going to annoy people a lot when I say, no, I can't eat at this restaurant, we have to find somewhere else, or I have to find somewhere else, or when I'm not drinking because I can't have beer, or like my family's coming home for the 4th of July and I'm going to have to be that annoying person that's standing there while they get their food, making sure they don't touch the ketchup bottle to the hamburger bun, or that they don't get the macaroni in the fruit salad. And I hate being this person. Like, I hate it. It never gets easier. It's never fun. I don't enjoy it. I hate being that annoying person that's over everyone's shoulder. But I also know that no one else is going to look out for my health but myself. And if I'm not that annoying person, no one else is going to be. I can't expect anyone else to be, and I should not have to apologize for that. Because in reality, everyone else has to live with it for a few hours or a few days when I'm around. I have to live with it for my entire life. So if they can't understand that, then... So I think the biggest thing that's changed for me over the past 4 years is just my attitude towards my chronic illness and how I adapt to my surroundings. Because honestly, and it's crazy to say knowing how I felt, you know, just a couple years ago when this diagnosis was new to me, you will get to a point where you accept it. Like, you'll reach a point where you realize that this is your normal, there's nothing you can do to change it, right? Like, this is gonna be your life and you're fine with that. You do it because you have to do it. Like, there's no turning back, there's no, you know, magic pill that's gonna fix everything, right? Like, the only thing you can do is accept it. The difficult part becomes getting other people to accept it. I mean, yeah, like when people bring cupcakes into the office, or when everyone's going out to a restaurant that I just don't feel like I can eat at, it's easy to feel sorry for myself, and I still feel that now. But also, I can remember how sick I used to feel, and I can realize how lucky I am to be healthy because I know what it feels like to not be healthy and to not know what's wrong with me. But you can't force other people to understand that because they haven't been through this transition that you've been through. And to be honest, it's just, I think it's difficult for other people to empathize with that. And I don't mean to say like you won't find people who understand or you won't find people who are sympathetic, because I find a lot of people are, but I'd also be lying if I didn't say you'll find a lot of people who aren't. Or people who think they know how to fix your problem, or that think they have the cure to your disease. If you just ran more, or if you ate more apples a day, I don't know. I've heard it all. Or people who know someone else with your disease, but who deals with it differently than you do, and supposedly they're doing it right because they're less of a burden than you are. Whatever it may be. What I've learned is not to get mad at people for this. Or, okay, I get mad at people for this. It's easy to get mad at people for this, but I eventually get over it because I have to, right? I can't control how other people feel about me and my disease. The only thing I can do is figure out what my limits are, stick to them, and not let other people make me feel bad or ashamed for it. When I can, I will eat at home and meet up with people later. I will pack a meal. I will do what I can so other people don't have to change their plans for me. Or I'll recommend places where I feel comfortable eating. I will do what I can to stay within my limits, but there are situations where other people will have to adapt to you, and hopefully they can accept that. But ultimately, it's up to me to decide where I'm willing to take risks and where I'm not, where I'm willing to, get out of my comfort zone and when I'm not. And ultimately, what I'm getting at is I just don't want to have to apologize for that anymore. I mean, there are going to be times where I feel left out, or I feel sorry for myself, or I frustrate people, and maybe that's not something that will ever get any easier. The only thing I can think of to do is to, one, again, stay within my limits and do what I can to make it easier for others and hope that they do what they can to make it easier for me, and also just to educate people as best I can. And I try to go into situations, even if the conversation's uncomfortable, to explain what's going on with me and why I have to, be the way that I am, and not just immediately jump to getting angry at people for not understanding, but for trying to explain it to them and to help them understand. And hopefully, if we all try to do it, eventually we can get to a point where we stop feeling like our disease is our fault. So you're free to use this video to spark a conversation or make one of your own. Do what you can to be understanding of people who don't understand you, and to try and move the needle a little bit so that hopefully we can get to a point where chronic diseases aren't so stigmatized or misunderstood. Also, let me know in the comments if you know of any organizations that work to strike up conversations or educate people on different chronic illnesses. I'm always thinking about ways to do like fundraisers or things like that, but I just have no clue where to begin with that sort of thing. So if you know of anything kind of like that, let me know. Also, let me know your personal story in the comments. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, I hope it made you feel like maybe things will get better if you're currently feeling a little hopeless or a little alone. I totally understand. That's why I make these videos, because they make me feel a little less alone. So I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to give it a thumbs up if you did, so I know. P.S. if you're new, all of my social media stuff is below. If you feel like checking more of my stuff out, you're welcome to do so. And I will see you very soon with another video. Bye guys!